You're listening to GotTech, the podcast with your hosts, Eric Guise and Nick Johnson. Welcome back to GotTech, the podcast. This is episode 68 called Creating Effective Virtual PD for Teachers. In this episode, we'll share some of the things that we've learned over the past several months when it comes to creating and sharing PD for teachers in our new virtual world. Stay tuned to hear some of our top tips and our favorite new EdTech that is worth sharing. This is one episode you don't want to miss. Check it out.
All right, so episode 68. I'm really excited about this episode just because, one, we've been doing a lot of professional development lately, and two, this is kind of a reflection of all the professional development that we've done lately and how we can incorporate this into our own school and kind of make it an informal professional development that any teacher can go visit at any point in time throughout the school year.
Yeah, it's funny how after all these years of making PD, we must have presented, I don't know how many hundreds of hours of stuff. And we're like still learning. Still, like just yesterday, we were doing a presentation virtually for somebody. We'll talk about it in a second. But I feel like I've learned and thought about so many new things just in that time that I've never really thought about before, or you have thought about, but they're just sort of crystallizing and becoming a little bit more concrete. And I guess that's sort of what this episode is all about, right? Is that sort of how you feel about this whole thing too?
Yeah, I mean, it's just another way of giving back and hopefully not adding too much more work to really what we're trying to accomplish. I mean, our goal here is to give teachers best practices or how-tos or, just a whole bunch of tools that they could use and kind of look at this whenever they have time throughout the school year. And the beauty around this is it could keep growing all year long. It doesn't have to stay the same 5 videos up there all year long. It could be, it might start off with 2 or 3 videos, and then every once in a while someone adds something new and it's an ongoing list and people can go revisit those things. And I think that's super important here. And maybe, who knows, after people watch the videos, there might be continued dialogue, a little bit of Q&A that you might be able to start meeting in person to expand on these best practices.
Yeah, so we'll get into those tips a little more deeply and much more when we start the episode officially in segment 2. But before we get into all the details, I just want to announce a couple things. We have lots of stuff right now for GotTech, the podcast, that we'll be sharing. But 2 right off the bat, if you're listening live the week that we release this particular episode, you'll have time to check out the Dino Progressive Learning Conference, Dino PLC, Thursday, September 24th. We recorded a session there on flipped learning, in particular, our flipped flops that we've been working on with our buddy Kyle Nemus of Classroom Q. So you can register for that and check out. They have stuff all week long. So I think each day is basically a new keynote. And I believe we're heading up Thursday's sessions. But you register, you can watch our video. It is a pre-record, but there's some live interaction that's going on there via Twitter and other avenues. We've been involved with some Dino stuff for a while now. They do a great job. So I would highly, highly recommend that. Besides, you can check out some of our other projects. It's also free, and that's always super nice. Here's another free activity. Our very own Flipped Flops YouTube series. We're still publishing these. I think we're wrapping it up soon, but within the next couple weeks, you can be expecting our final new episodes. These are all on YouTube. You can find them just by going to YouTube and searching Treefish EDU. You'll see us pop up there. And please subscribe if you do that. Also there on that page, you'll see all of our prior Flipped Flops videos. This is where me, Guise, and Kyle Nemus, who I previously mentioned, we talk about the ways that we messed up flipped learning so that you guys don't have to make those same mistakes. You can also find all this on treefishedu.com.
Yeah, the best thing about the flip-flops is the fact that it's relevant for now. This works in a remote setting, it works in a hybrid setting, and it works when we're back to normal in the classrooms as well. So this is something where we just give you little chunks of information that you can keep in mind and work on throughout the school year as you start to implement and incorporate flipped learning into your everyday practice. So if you like what you hear with GotTech the podcast, do us a couple favors. Subscribe to GotTech the podcast on all the major podcast platforms. Go over to our YouTube channel. Nick and I started publishing one video piece every week on a tip, EdTech tool, or a practice that you can consider. These are little chunked videos. They're just a couple minutes long. Make sure you go check those out. I think a lot of those will help you out and give you those little pieces of information that might save you a little bit of time. The other thing is you can follow us on social media at We Got Tech, or Nick at Nick Got Tech, or me at Guise Got Tech. Let us know that you're listening. Share our podcast with your friends. And if you are up to it, write us an Apple Podcast review. It helps us out a lot. Before we get into segment number 2, we just want to give a shout out to podcast friend, and he's in our PLN, and he's a big part of our PLN, Bruce Reicher, and his publication of his new book, Scripted: An Educator's Guide to Media in the Classroom. This is my next book up on my nightstand. I've read maybe 12 in the last 3 months, so that's pretty good. But Scripted will be, it's one that I've been looking forward to. And Bruce, congratulations again. I know you're a co-author on this, but keep doing the good work. Keep it up, and we look forward to reflecting and maybe talking about your book on a future podcast.
You can follow GotTech outside the podcast at gottech.com or on Twitter at WeGotTech. So let's get into it. We do a lot of stuff on the show. Most of it is centered around, as a teacher, what can you do to make your classroom more engaging for your students? Activities, templates, you guys know how it works here on the show. But every once in a while, we sort of take a step back because there's a way that we think we can have a broader effect, and that is by helping teachers assisting other teachers. And in that way, I think you're still impacting student learning because you can share. And that's kind of what the podcast itself is, right? You can share stuff with other teachers, and then that sort of trickles down, and a lot more students can have access to these cool things. So that's kind of what today's episode is all about. We also know a lot of our listeners are in some role tech coaches, maybe officially, and that's one of your jobs at your school, maybe even just unofficially. Maybe every once in a while your principal taps you to make a tutorial to send out to staff. Maybe this is something you do a lot more often. Maybe you're planning your own unconference as we speak, or just planning to, or it's something you've thought about and you're starting to gather ideas, and this can be the moment where that comes together for you. Essentially, what we're talking about here is planning effective virtual PD, but this time for teachers specifically. I know Guise and I have been doing a ton of it, and we sort of referenced this earlier at the top of the show. We've just learned a lot, and we thought it might be cool to bring that together in an episode and share out some of these tips. So that's essentially what we're going to be doing for you guys today. And I'll kick it off. I know one of the things that I've kind of really started taking seriously recently more than ever is sort of taking the same approach to teacher PD as you do for student lessons, content lessons in your class. And this is something that we've always talked about, because as a teacher, when you present, let's talk about an in-person presentation, you get up and you talk for an hour. It's like the typical amount of time, sometimes longer. And we do that often while preaching to never, ever do that in front of your students. So you have these, Guise is laughing because we just came across this yesterday. You would never talk for an hour straight to your students. And yes, teachers are adults. Our attention spans ideally are a little bit longer, but are they really? Does anybody actually want to sit there for that hour? We do and we can, but it's definitely not the most enjoyable way to do it. So I'll start off by saying that if you're putting together PD for teachers, the stuff that works really well is keeping it small. Just little bite-sized snippets. Just like I would for my students, a 2 to 5 minute video maximum, push that out. It just has much more of an impact than it would to spend 45 minutes recording yourself explaining, 50 different tips. You're going to lose people. And then people, even if they watch the whole thing, they may not pick up on all that stuff. So starting small, if you're putting together, say, like a list or like a series of videos, maybe for sort of like an unconference style thing, just gather whatever you can, tap other people around you, give them that same direction to keep these things short and sweet, but kind of tap other people and just build that collection of videos so you've got it. And then that can slowly sort of, roll together, and you can push out a nice collection for staff or publicly or whatever you want to do.
So let me just hop in real quick. And I love what you're saying with keeping it short and all that. A lot of times teachers want one of two different PDs there. They either want to follow along and do as you do. So you're modeling it, they do it, but you're still chunking that in the small segments. You're modeling something, you're giving them time. You're modeling something, you're giving them time, which is awesome. But what we need to consider here is that we need to empower our teachers. We have skilled teachers. We have teachers that have done some awesome stuff over the last 9 months, 8 months, working remotely, working hybrid, working in person. So what we need to do is tap into those resources. And the way that we do this is going to be, there's a way that you could do it to be successful and a way that you could do it to not be as successful when trying to bring these things together. If you talk to a teacher and you empower them, they'll be more than likely to come through. Whereas if you just ask them to make a 10-minute video on whatever they want to do, that's not really a great way of doing it. If you tell them that, hey, so-and-so told me of this that you've done in class, is there any way that you can just record yourself on Zoom while you're doing that lesson? All right. And then the tech coach can chop it up if they want, or you can just play it as is if it's short. But if you empower them, if you say that they're doing a nice job and you're specific about your intentions there and what you want done, and you say that I want to use you as an example because you're doing great things, they're more than likely to step up there. So I just wanted to throw that out there. I know that you have a couple other points, but that really just hit home, and I wanted to make sure that we threw that out there.
Yeah, so that's, I think, important to mention, and it kind of builds off of the first thing I mentioned there. So you're putting together this collection of resources, starting small, right, gathering what you can, and using your colleagues and empowering them. I think it goes a long way, especially if it's somebody that might not always be the one to get asked to prepare something. If you go say, hey, I noticed you were using, I don't know, later we're going to talk about Jamboard, and you say, I noticed you were using Jamboard the other day. You think you could maybe screencast your next virtual class using that, and maybe I could include it as part of this video resource collection I'm putting together. It goes a long way, and you might open up a whole new avenue for that teacher that they wouldn't have even thought about before. So that's important. And it makes your work a lot easier too, because then you've got people helping you out. So we're doing all that stuff. Video tips for these videos that you're making, videos that are coming in from other teachers. I've already gotten into this a little bit, keeping those videos short. We want to do that whenever possible. I also already mentioned single topics per video, so that people can kind of pick and choose, almost like playlist style, like you would push a playlist of content or options out to your students. Do the same thing with teachers. And, you can use whatever you want for that. Google Doc is probably the easiest thing, but post it on a Google site. Tons of options there. Something that we've done a lot of recently is, it's nice for people to watch you on a video talking. Maybe you've got a slide deck, right, presenting something, and it's your voice. Maybe you're being screencasted as you narrate these slides. Well, a lot of teachers like to have access to that slide deck that you're actually talking through, so they can maybe look at it on their own computers. Maybe you've built that slide deck, especially if you're using Google Slides. Maybe you've built it so it is meant to be interactive, and you want your listeners to listen to you narrate it, but also have it so they can click on whatever links you've included there. So a good idea for this is to make sure you have a link to that slide content in the slide presentation itself. A good way to do this, you don't want to copy paste the entire, if it is a Google Doc or something, you don't want to put that whole URL, but you can of course shorten it with like a bit.ly, and you get that nice customizable bit.ly link, or tiny URLs, another popular way to do it. I guess you could even throw a QR code up there, but that might be a little bit more work, and maybe easier just to put the link, just because that everybody knows how to work that. But maybe do both. You got your bit.ly link, QR code if people want to use their phones so that they can scan it, get access to your materials, and listen to you talk. I think that's a really cool way. It also kind of feels more interactive, and that's something you lose with the virtual content. So that's one of our favorite new things to do. Also, feedback. you can't have that question and answer session necessarily if it's a pre-recorded session of you talking about something. So you can still put a link to a feedback form at the end. We typically just do this with Google Forms because it's so quick and easy. But if you wanted to get fancier, you could use any of those digital feedback forms like SurveyMonkey, or there's a ton of them out there. But that's always great. And sometimes we'll even tie in, I don't know, free giveaways. So you tell people that you can enter to win this if they fill out the form, or at the end of the form, maybe it releases a link for access to some, I don't know, template you've put together, something like that, just to get people excited and give them a reason to go through that. So I know that's a lot of stuff there, but hopefully it makes sense, and hopefully that'll help any putting together a list of video resource like this.
All right, so Nick and I, we kind of sat down and we want to start this whole thing at our school. So what we're going to do is we're going to start with each of us making 3 videos. And we were very specific as to what our intentions are here and what types of videos that we're making. But we want to make best practice videos, we want to make how-to videos, and tool introductory videos. So best practice, for example, my first one is Jamboard. This is something I will be completely honest and say I did not like it prior to March 2020. I looked at it and I was like, no, this isn't for me. I'm not using this. I just thought it was clunky. I thought I could do everything I wanted to do in slides. But in March, when we went remote, then I revisited it for the remote learning purpose. And you know what? I'm glad that I did. Kim Matina also told me, you don't know what you're missing. And she did this way before remote learning. But, Jamboard, if you think of it, it's like a interactive whiteboard meets Google Slides. And it's the best of both worlds. So I really like Jamboard. And for my video, what I'm doing is I'm explaining Jamboard, just as that, an interactive whiteboard. Meets Google Slides. And then I'm going to show an activity that I'm using in my AP Bio class right now. And we're doing a lab on chi-squared and M&Ms. So I'm going to show that. I'm going to show the directions for it. So I got what it is. I'll show the directions for that lab. And then when the students are all done, I'm going to show what they created. And then I'm going to explain how we used it in class based on, what they created. And that's giving them everything they need right there. Maybe at the end, I show them a little bit about Jamboard and how to use it, or I could even put that at the beginning. But what I'm shooting for is a 5 to 10 minute video. And that's it. If it's less than 5 minutes and it gets the job done, that's awesome. And what I'm doing there is that brings up my next one, which is a tech tool. All right. In our district, we need to have a professional picture linked to our Google account or to our websites. So a lot of teachers, they have nice pictures. They're not professionally done. The background might be them in their classroom or standing in front of a tree. But if we want to clean up that background and just have it be a solid background, how do we do that? And I'm going to do like creating a pro website picture using remove.bg. And you could do the whole professional picture in there. It removes the background. You could add a solid background, and we share that out. That's probably going to be 1.5 minutes, tops 2 minutes. So that would be my second one. And my last one, I love gamifying my classroom. So a lot of times, we use GimKit, we use Kahoot, Quizzes, Quizalize, Quizlet. I guess those are the top 5.
Yep.
But every once in a while, I like to use Google Sheets. And I like to customize the cells and format the cells. So, when the students type in an answer, it will tell them right away by changing the cell a certain color whether they got the correct answer. So I'm going to do one on that. And I happen to tie that into my Escape the Rooms. So we'll put links to as many of these examples or videos to these in the show notes. But those are my 3. And, out of all 3 of them, Jamboard's 5 to 10 minutes, Google Sheets for formative assessment, 5 minutes tops, and creating a pro website picture with Remove BG is 2 minutes tops. So we're talking about little clips here. Nick, you want to go over some of yours?
Yeah, I will. But before I do that, I'll just kind of second one of those selections. If you guys haven't checked out this is now separate from planning the PD, but I just want to sort of say how great this is. Remove.bg is one of the coolest tools. We've been talking a lot since probably maybe all summer long even. Tech tools that do one thing, but do it really, really super well. Those are always our favorite here on the show. Remove.bg is like the perfect example of that. Used to be, if you wanted to have a transparent background with, and sort of separate out some image in the foreground. What we're talking about here is doing that with your face, right? For a professional photo. You had to get on Photoshop or at least learn some other sort of pretty intense technology. Remove.bg, it is insane how well it cleans up the background and leaves just this nice sharp image around typically you or your face in the foreground. It's so awesome. So definitely check that out and just play around with it. There's lots of cool ways you can use that too to help make your own presentations for class just look neater, because those transparent background images are always the best to use for anything you're putting together. So I'm glad you brought that up. But yeah, for our sort of like sample digital conference, those are Guise's 3 things. I put 3 together too. That I think I would like to put together some videos on. And one of those is just sort of the incredible versatility of Google Slides. Because I guess the theme with my choices here is sharing things that teachers kind of know about, but they aren't fully aware of all of the capabilities. And I don't know if there's a better example of that than Google Slides. We've both picked this in the past as like, if you could share one Google tool, Slides would be the tool, because it's almost like everything in one. One of my favorite things with Slides that I've been sharing a lot is that you can change the size of the slide. So you think about a slide as like a thing that fits your computer screen, right? Well, it doesn't have to be. You can set a Google slide, or even PowerPoint does this, to be 8.5 by 11. You can make it look like a standard worksheet, and then all your slides are just a series of worksheets, and you can edit them up that way. And that opens up all kinds of doors, because now you've got what just looks like a piece of paper, like a Google Doc, but without the limitations of word processing. And you can drop in images and text boxes and set background images, all kinds of stuff. And it's just a really cool, fun thing to play around with. And if you're doing that, you have to check out, and in this video, I would have to throw in slidesmania.com. We bring it up all the time, and we probably will keep bringing it up because it's just so cool that they put together. It's a resource of template slides, or slide templates for Google Slides and PowerPoint. From the teacher side, they're starting to pull in different games, slides where you can click. One of our favorites is like a filing cabinet, where you click on the drawer to the file cabinet and it takes you to a new slide where that drawer is open, and it's like a way to access different docs. And it's just sort of like these cool interactive experiences all built off of the slides presentation. And it's just something I don't think a lot of people even know about. So Slides Mania, we're spreading the word big time. We love it. So that'd be my first one. Second one, screencasting tips. I don't want to get into the screencasting tools. I think these days everybody knows you've got Screencastify as the top choice. There's some other players like Loom and Screencast-O-Matic out there, but I think it's time, now that most people are familiar with these things, to go over some of the things that you can do with them, some of the more advanced features. Recently, I was creating some tutorials for staff that had some student names in there, and maybe personal information like grades, classes, address, phone number. Obviously, you can't share that out. Well, a lot of these tools offer, and Screencast-O-Matic is my favorite for this, but options to blur out certain pieces of that video slide. So if you're putting together this tutorial for teachers, you can show that, make a video of how to make a video, which sounds crazy, but these are important things. Screencastify actually just over the past couple months is adding more and more editing features, and one of those is the zoom in or the highlight feature, where you can click or designate an area of the screen or of the video, and it automatically zooms in on that, which is so cool. And it helps, if you're building something for your class, then it helps your students focus on that region. If it's for other teachers, then it's great to sort of give them a close-up look at a link they have to click or something they have to do. So, blurring, highlighting, these are all cool things. And then also reminding that a lot of these tools are good for us to use, but they're also good for students to use. I like, for its simplicity, Screencastify as a way for my students to do assignments. So instead of just, type out your answer on this Google Doc, guys, and submit it to me, I can say, record a screencast of yourself going over how to solve this problem. It's way more interactive. It gives me a much better look at what they're understanding and what they're not understanding because they've got to talk about it. It's still low pressure because they don't have to do it sort of one-on-one. It's a way for them to collect their thoughts, put together something polished and send it in. So that's something else that I would probably share in like a screencasting tips video for teachers. So that's my second one. And then my last one would be, and this is going to be tough to keep it in that short time limit that we were talking about before, but almost like a scattershot version of the EdTech tool throwdown that we do, where if you haven't seen it before, Guise and I will sort of go back and forth, and he presents his top EdTech, I present my top EdTech, and we let the listeners vote. I think it'd be cool to do that for like a small teacher PD version where, okay, 5 minutes, Nick gets 5 minutes, and it's just boom, 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 as many cool things as you possibly can share out. And then maybe, Guise, you get your own second video of your top, whatever, 10 things, 5 minutes, blast those out there. They should be quick little things that don't require a whole lot of description, but just let teachers know about as much as you possibly can within that. And I think that'd make sort of at least a fun video for people to watch that's a little bit more engaging.
I'm going to hop in because you just said a whole lot of good stuff here. First of all, Slides Mania, if you ever got asked the question, if there were someone or something in education that you had to be on an island and share a cup of coffee, I would definitely choose Paula to sit down and pick her brain on how she comes up with half of these awesome ideas. But we do love Slides Mania. But the screencasting, you could do a video on all the little tools that no one knows about, all the unsung heroes or all the gems within that tool. And then a separate video would be that student assignment one. And right there you have two videos that are probably under 5 minutes apiece, maybe under 3 minutes apiece. As far as the EdTech Throwdown, there's no reason why we can't do that on a micro scale. You said 5 minutes, but really we could both pick a topic. And we did this with our EdTech Battle Royale in our first year of the podcast. Right. Which I kind of missed because I'm pretty sure I was up like 12-0. I'm not sure.
I don't know.
But yeah, I mean, for the EdTech Throwdown, there's two that we have done, and I think do you want to go over where they can find those? Yeah,
so maybe a good example of what we're talking about. We have two other upcoming opportunities that will sort of model this EdTech tool throwdown. One of them is the Art Educators of New Jersey Conference 2020. You have to register for that, and we have the link in our show notes if you want to check it out. It's Saturday, October 24th. It is a live event. I'm not sure what they're doing with the content after. Maybe that's going to be shared publicly, but definitely want to register for it just to guarantee that you've got access to all this stuff. But we put together a pre-recorded session where we do just that. Now, it's longer form, right? We talked for maybe 30, 45 minutes, I think. But just as a snapshot of the kind of thing we're talking about, where you sort of are going back and forth and hitting people with as much as you possibly can. So that's one example. And you can find the similar presentation. And this one is live currently. It's the New Jersey Department of Education Virtual Professional Learning Resource page. They pretty much just gathered as much and are continuing to gather as much as they possibly can from teachers in New Jersey to share, just to sort of help each other out with, so many of the schools that are fully remote or hybrid, and so much of the stuff that's on there, like you said at the beginning, it works anywhere. But if you do that, you'll see that we have a presentation there too, sort of in this EdTech Throwdown style, just so you guys can get a sense. Yeah, so I think that pretty much wraps it up for the EdTech Throwdown. Did we miss anything, do you think, with our list of tips for teachers creating PD for teachers?
Yeah, I think we probably missed some stuff, but hopefully people will let us know what we missed, and then we'll be able to add to our list. So make sure that you're following along with us on our website, www.gottech.com, and also reach out on Twitter. We love to grow our PLN and share things and work back and forth with people and just try to have us all work together to make a better situation for our students and teachers out there. So until next time, check out our website, reach out to us, and stay safe, everybody.
Thanks for listening to Got Tech, the podcast. Remember to subscribe to our show and follow us at We Got Tech on Twitter so you can stay up to date with the latest episode releases, blog posts, product reviews, and PD announcements. You can also follow Guise and I individually at Guise Got Tech and at Nick Got Tech on Twitter or on Instagram at Nick Got Tech. Finally, remember to check out our website, GotTech.com, where we post all our episodes, articles, and resources available to you for free. Until next time.